This is CBC Here and Now.
For the third time since May, a plane full of Ukrainians will land here at St. John's Airport in about an hour and a half or so. We're live here at the airport and we'll have all the details coming up.
After 4 years of going down, suicide rates increased in 2021 by about 25%. How to interpret that data? That's coming up.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We start tonight with a story that's making waves right across the country. 7 women from this province say a birth control device wreaked havoc on their lives, their bodies, and their mental health. It was touted as a safer, quicker alternative to getting their tubes tied. But what followed was years of unexplained, painful health problems. Those women have joined a national litigation suit against the pharmaceutical giant Bayer, the makers of the Essure device. Tracy Hillier is one of them. She says her 30s were stolen from her as she began battling a slew of mysterious ailments.
Chronic fatigue, severe joint pain, my hair started to fall out, my hairline, which has grown back, my teeth. It was hard for me to even chew a piece of meat. It will literally take my days to get over the pain in my jaws and my gums and my teeth. Shingles. I used to break out with shingles. You don't break out with shingles unless you have a compromised immune system. It was constantly something.
You're
constantly sick.
Elevated prolactin.
Well, little did Hillier know she wasn't alone. Just a few minutes down the road, other women were similarly struggling. Ahead on Here and Now, you'll meet some of those women and hear more from the company that is standing by its product. Ariana Kellen's feature report is coming up in about 25 minutes. Well, we have reports of a developing police situation at this hour on the Buren Peninsula. The RCMP says they're responding to an incident in Port-au-Bras on the Buren Peninsula. That's between the community of Buren and Mortier on Route 221. Police are asking people in the area to remain in their homes, and they're asking others to avoid the area until further notice. We don't have any details on what the incident is, but the RCMP tells us it's a fluid situation and there is concern for public safety. We'll update you as we get more information. Before our next story, we have a warning for you. It deals with suicide, so it may be disturbing to some. CBC News has obtained numbers from the Provincial Office of the Chief Medical Examiner that shows the provincial rate of suicides declined between 2017 and 2020. But 2021 looks a bit different, with a 25% increase in suicides across the province. The Labrador-Grenfell region saw the biggest jump. As Here Now's Enrica Wilhelm reports, the matter is more complex than just looking at those numbers.
Every last across this country has a connection with suicide. We all have lost family members and friends, just important people in our community.
Inuit Tapirit Kanatimi President Nathan Obed knows what it feels like. In the Labrador-Grenfell Health Region, the number of suicides more than doubled from 2020 to 2021, from 9 to 19. Suicides also increased in the Eastern Health Region, while they went down in Western and Central. Overall, provincial numbers increased by about 25%, from 65 in 2020 to 81 in 2021. Troubling, says Progressive Conservative health critic Paul Dinn. He's calling for improved access to long-term mental health care.
When you're hearing of people who are waiting 24 months to see a psychiatrist, that will tell you when you go to get looked at for a mental health crisis and you're sent away probably with a brochure or an online website to go to, or give us a call whenever, that doesn't go over.
Health Minister Tom Osborne attributes the recent rise in suicide numbers to the COVID pandemic and says strides have been made.
Wait times for mental health services has been improved significantly in the province. Bridge the Gap has been very successful and adopted throughout the country. We now need to, work on getting the numbers reduced again.
But one Memorial University professor who has researched suicide for years says it's not as easy as connecting suicides and the pandemic.
I think COVID is part of the picture, but at an individual level, we haven't looked, and so it's hard to say whether or not, a specific person died or didn't die because of COVID, and that's, a real simplification.
He says slight changes in suicide rates are expected from one year to another, and that sometimes the overall rate is skewed by an increase in one region.
You see these spikes in the numbers, and in some instances that's not part of a general trend in the province overall, but that's really specific to a place.
One suicide prevention advocate agrees the 2021 numbers don't point to a crisis.
The thing about suicide and the number of suicide deaths is that it does vary from year to year. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down. 25% it isn't out of the ordinary. There are some years it's 60, some years it's 92. It just depends.
Davies comes from a point of experience. Her son Richard ended his life in 1995.
To me, there's nothing worse than losing a child to suicide. The thing that I take out of that is that that's the worst thing that's ever going to happen to me.
Davies also worked on Our Path of Resilience, the provincial government's 5-year suicide prevention plan, which was launched in June and aims to address existing gaps in the provincial system to ensure a reduction in the number of suicides. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the MHA for the north coast of Labrador is frustrated by what she's seeing, the doubling of suicide rates, and what she says is not enough action from the provincial government. We'll hear from Leela Evans in about 25 minutes on Here and Now. And in the meantime, if you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out for help. You can call the Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-833-456-4566 or the Kids Help Phone, that number 1-800-668-6868. The story's up on our website, cbc.ca/nl, where you can find more resources. The company that wants to build wind turbines on the Port Peninsula says it will donate money to several communities in the area. A significant amount of money, $10 million in what it calls a Community Vibrancy Fund. It's a commitment World Energy GH2 is making to 3 different areas of the Port and Bay St. George region. Company Director John Risley says the fund isn't about winning the favor of people in the region for the project, as he believes they already have that support. He says communities would receive money once construction starts next year and over the following 3 years. The project still doesn't have the final approval from the provincial government, but Risley says he feels certain it will be approved after the environmental studies are carried out.
Good evening. Taking a look at your weather that is on the way now for the island and into Labrador. We will have showers tonight for parts of the west coast and the northern peninsula. In the Gros Morne area tonight, you could see 5 to 10 millimeters of rain. Things should clear off on Wednesday. It looks like we'll have a nice day on Wednesday for most parts of the island. A mix of sun and cloud with things clearing out for a pretty decent day on Thursday as well. However, as we get into Labrador tonight, it will be a chilly night with wind chill in some areas, feeling like -8, -6, -7. So bundle up if you're heading out. And here you go. You can see all those showers sweeping across the island and then clearing out into Wednesday, tomorrow evening. By the time we go to bed, it should be a pretty decent day. We'll have more on that a little later ahead on Here and Now.
We have more information tonight about Friday's fatal accident on the TCH east of Bellevue Beach. A woman in her 60s was killed in that 2-vehicle collision. It happened shortly before 8:30 in the morning. According to police, there was heavy rain and water buildup on the road at the time of the crash. A car traveling westbound lost control and collided with an oncoming vehicle. Both were carrying 3 passengers. Police say the woman died at the scene while 2 others were taken to hospital with serious injuries. The provincial government released some details on what it's calling its Future Fund that it hopes to get passed in the House of Assembly. If approved, it would require the government to put money into the fund to be spent on things like improving the province's economy and debt reduction, as well as lowering the cost of borrowing. The money could come from the sale of any major assets, so that would be things valued over $5 million, or a portion of provincial resource royalties, like an unexpected windfall from oil.
It is a fund that will take a portion of non-renewable resources and or from one-time sources, and it will invest it. Monies accumulated will help pay down the debt, thereby lowering the cost of borrowing. Now, following a 10-year period, the money accumulated may also, in addition to debt repayment, be used for decommissioning costs and activities offshore or fund strategic priorities.
The finance minister says the fund will be overseen by a board of trustees and reports will be filed regularly in the House of Assembly. The Future Fund Act will receive second reading in the legislature today and one more reading before it becomes law. Well, take a look at this exhibit at the Johnson Geo Center. The expanded oil and gas gallery officially opened today. It's designed to tell visitors about the science and technology of the oil and gas industry in the province. It includes a larger gallery space, an update to exhibit pieces, some new technology, and an interactive drilling animation. ExxonMobil and the Hebron project paid for the expansion.
As the Hebron project is about to celebrate its 5th anniversary of first oil production, it is fitting to share the story of the industry in the province and to provide a unique opportunity for visitors to experience it for years to come. We hope this exhibit will increase the understanding of the province's evolving offshore environment and provide youth with the information and experience to feel the excitement of the future of technology and energy solutions.
Well, he says the oil and gas industry was always part of the Geo Center, but this enhanced exhibit is more modern and shows off new energy technologies. Well, for the third time since May, a plane full of Ukrainians is going to be arriving in St. John's. The province says 177 people from the war-torn country are en route from Poland. Their plane is set to touch down soon, about 7:30 local time. Here now's Jeremy Eaton is at the airport waiting for them to arrive. So, Jeremy, this comes just a day after a deadly Russian missile attack on Kiev. What's the mood at the airport like right now?
Well, we're going to show some pictures of that attack coming up shortly there, Peter, but the mood is, well, the people here are pretty happy and pretty excited because a lot of work goes on to welcoming these 177 people, approximately 177 people to St. John's. And as you said, this is the third flight like this that the government has sponsored. And as you can see behind us, they've set up their Ukrainian flag and they have their websites if they want to help. So now the government says that since May, I think when the first plane arrived, there's been an influx of about 800 Ukrainians who have already arrived here seeking refuge from what was happening in Ukraine due to the Russian invasion. Now, this plane is Sunwing's flight 4110 that left from Warsaw, Poland earlier today, and it's expected to land at 7:34 p.m. That's what it says here on the arrivals board at St. John's Airport. So that's going to welcome approximately 170 new Ukrainians into Newfoundland and Labrador, and so far this has been a huge success, and we're hoping to hear more from the Association for New Canadians about this and what sort of work needs to be done to get these people here and what happens when they do arrive. Now, but for the first time, this plane, before it heads back to Poland, will be filled up with supplies. Now, some of those supplies include over-the-counter medication, personal hygiene products, clothing, winter boots, blankets, baby wipes, and diapers. So they're going to pack all of this onto the plane and send it back to Warsaw, Poland, before sending it into the Ukraine. But now this comes as probably great news given what's happened in the last 36 to 48 hours over in Ukraine and Russia, which started with the Ukrainians blowing up part of the bridge that led Russia into Crimea, and then the Russians responded with a heavy missile attack on Kyiv, which actually ended up hitting non-military targets like a school playground, and a university. and resulting in at least 14 deaths. So I'm sure a lot of the people on the plane tonight are happy to be getting out of that situation and to be able to be landing here. Now, as I said, we are expected for this plane to land in approximately, an hour and 20 minutes or so. They will have to clear customs, so it'll be pretty late by the time that they make their way through the doors here behind us. But I know that all the representatives from the government and the representatives from the Association for New Canadians are all very excited and eager to greet them and welcome them into their new homes here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And as I said, we're hoping to hear from the Association for New Canadians about the work that needs to be done when they get here, and that'll be coming up later on in the show. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Jeremy Eaton in St. John's.
Snow and rain tonight is the weather story. We'll tell you where and how much after this on Here and Now.
Whenever we're into October and we have a day with some sunshine and a little bit of warmth, I consider that a win. And in St. John's today, it was lovely.
It was lovely. We did have some showers, though, in some parts of the island, but overall, it was a really nice day.
Yeah, it's October. We got to, showers. You kind of got to expect them at this point.
Temperatures, single digits. It was a pretty seasonal day. So actually, let's take a look at what happened today. So we've got temperatures in, the double digits, 12, 13 degrees for the eastern part of the island, dipping down into the single digits when we get into Corner Brook today, up into the single digits as well here on the Northern Peninsula. Of course, things also in the single digits today. Our daytime highs in Labrador with 1 degree in Churchill Falls. Will it remain that way? Let's take a look at our future tracker and see what's in store. We can see we've got some rain on the way here, especially for the Northern Peninsula, and that's going to move on into the west coast tonight, where around Corner Brook we could have about 2 millimeters of rain, as much as 5 to 10 millimeters in the Gross Morin area here. Things tapering off the further up the Northern Peninsula we go. However, tomorrow, those showers will stick around a little bit for the west coast, into the Buren Peninsula and along the north coast of the island before clearing off on Wednesday to give us a little bit of cloud in the afternoon, sun in some spots. We could have, a mix of rain, possibly snow in some parts of Labrador as well. Let's take a look at our temperatures going into tonight. For St. John's, it's going to be a bit windy tonight, 30 to 50 winds out of the southwest, temperature 7 degrees, a chance of showers here in St. John's. As we get to the southern Avalon, though, you could have some showers a little bit later in the evening. For the south coast of the island, including the Buren Peninsula, down right through to Port aux Basques area, partly cloudy skies tonight, 7, 8 degrees as well. As we get on up into the west coast, still winds 30 gusting to 50 from the southwest. But what we'll see when we get into central Newfoundland is a chance of showers as well. Moving up the Northern Peninsula, you're going to have that rain, and you might have some of that shower activity into the Straits as well, where it will be -1. In Cartwright, 0 degrees. So for you, that could mean flurries. It could mean rain, depending on what side of the temperature gauge that you're on. Into Happy Valley Goose Bay tonight, you'll have a few showers. That'll clear off, but behind that, it'll be chilly in the overnight. It says -2 right here, but with the wind chill overnight, it might feel as cold as -6 degrees. On into Labrador City, a few flurries and 0 degrees tonight. Winds a little lighter here and partly cloudy skies in Nain tonight and -1. On to the future tracker again. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, again, those showers for the west coast, across the north coast of the island, things clearing off on Wednesday, giving us cloudy skies for some areas of the province, sun for some others like here on the south coast, and things really clearing off as we get into the evening hours by the time you're going to bed on Wednesday. And then when we get into Thursday, it looks like that could be another decent day for most parts of the island. Some showers possible for the tip of the Northern Peninsula and into southern Labrador as well. Taking a look at tomorrow now, it'll be a beautiful day on the southern Avalon, mainly sunny, 14 degrees, a little bit cooler as we get up into St. John's and to Bonavista, mainly sunny here as well, but 12 degrees. On the Buren Peninsula, Marystown, mainly cloudy. After a cloudy night, it'll be clearing off for mainly sunny and 8 degrees there. Moving on into central Newfoundland, you could have some showers, a chance of showers in the morning. It'll be 10 degrees. Things should clear off, giving you a mix of sun and cloud in the afternoon. As we go a little further west now, beautiful day for the south coast, 13 degrees, but we're going to get a few more clouds as we get up into the west coast here, and a few showers there in Buren in the morning. Temperatures really dropping off for us on the Northern Peninsula and into southern Labrador tomorrow. And here we go. Beautiful day in Nain and Makovic, sunny skies, 3 to 4 degrees. Few showers possible for Churchill Falls, and in Labrador City, it could be, flurries and then some rain for you at 7 degrees. Could be windy overnight for the north coast of the island as well before things start to calm down again tomorrow. We'll have more on what things will look like for the rest of your week a little later on Here and Now.
For years, they were sick and didn't know why. Now, a group of women from central Newfoundland are facing off against a giant American company. That story coming up on Here and Now.
For years, they say they suffered physical and emotional pain. Now, 7 women in Newfoundland are part of litigation targeting the company that made Essure, a permanent birth control device that they say wreaked havoc on their bodies. Tonight, we bring you the story of 2 of these women who unknowingly suffered the same symptoms while living just 20 minutes apart. Here now's Ariana Kelland has this CBC Investigates story, but first, a warning, some of what you're going to see is graphic in nature.
In 2012, Tracy Hillier was a healthy 30-year-old. She decided to get her tubes tied to avoid unwanted pregnancy. Instead, she was told about a new option, Essure.
I was told that this was the safest, easiest implant procedure to get versus a tube ligation.
This is how it's supposed to work. 2 metal coils are inserted into the fallopian tubes. That creates scar tissue to block the sperm from reaching the egg. The company that made Essure and some doctors said it was safer, quicker, and easier to recover from.
It literally felt like there were knives stabbing me in my stomach. Not to be graphic, but I'm going to tell it like it is. There was blood running down my legs. I was vomiting. I went home. I was in bed for 3 full days, and I did not stop bleeding. Oh, you can't.
For the next 7 years, Hillier felt as though she had aged 70. She says her hair fell out, chewing hurt. She developed an eye disease associated with an autoimmune disorder. She experienced joint aches. The list, she says, goes on and on.
I question it all the time. I thought, am I hypochondriac? Am I crazy? Am I just a sickly person? I eat healthy, I exercise, I take care of myself, and I couldn't understand why I was sick all the time.
Little did she know Tracy Hillier wasn't alone. There were many women like her, and they weren't in the States or other parts of Canada. They were here in central Newfoundland. 15 minutes away in Bishop's Falls, Natty Parsons was sick of being sick. She got the Essure device implanted in 2009. Parsons says that lasted 10 years. She was told it was likely menopause.
I felt really drained and brain fog, and later on, as the years went on, I started having more like inflammation and pain in my hips. I would sit down, I'd get up to walk. I felt like I was like 100 years old, to be honest.
2 women, kilometers away, connected by one device. Hillier says she thought all hope was lost until she saw this.
Have you ever had any surgeries?
I had a medical device that broke, leaving pregnancy.
A trailer for a documentary on Netflix.
This has to come to an end.
It was definitely my aha moment. But I went to survival mode. I was like, I'm getting this out, I'm helping others, and I'm going to get better.
Hey y'all, it's another Thursday, which means it's an OR day.
Hillier spent over $18,000 to travel to Texas to meet with this man, a doctor who has made a career out of removing Essure coils, a complicated and risky procedure.
You can see that there's a little Essure here poking right out the top of the uterus.
I was angry at what was done at the time, but I felt like it was validated. Like I wasn't crazy. There was something wrong with me. I had the pictures to prove it.
Natty Parsons discovered reports about Essure from other women on a Facebook page. She insisted on getting the coils removed and thought she did, until stabbing pain sent her to the ER 4 months later.
They did an ultrasound and an x-ray, and I discovered that almost a full coil was still inside me, had migrated and was still inside my uterus.
Both Parsons and Hillier are part of a mass tort targeting Bayer, the pharmaceutical giant behind the product. Unlike a class action, a mass tort awards amounts on an individual basis. Of the 150 plaintiffs across Canada, 7 are in central Newfoundland. Their claims haven't yet been proven in court. Renee Bennett is the lawyer leading the charge.
We're talking removal of the fallopian tubes or a complete or partial hysterectomy as a result of these coils.
Another Canadian class action lawsuit includes 30 women from this province. Vinette says the company needs to pay up for damages she says Essure caused.
Women's lives have been devastated. Not only their physical health, but their mental well-being, and really the well-being of their family members and those that they were in relationships with.
Bayer did not admit any wrongdoing or liability, but did settle nearly all of its Essure-related lawsuits in the U.S. for a staggering $1.6 billion. But that hasn't been the case in Canada. The company is standing behind the product's safety and says there is a wealth of scientific data to support it. Bayer says it took Essure off the Canadian market in 2017 voluntarily because of a decline in patient demand. In a statement, Bayer says it plans to vigorously defend itself in court. Back in Newfoundland, Hillier and Parsons wait.
You can't just put something out there and say it's great and not have some sort of accountability. Like, you can't.
No amount of money can give you back your health. No amount of money can give you back the years that you lost for sickness. But it does give you a sense of accountability, and you were heard and you were right.
Ariana Kelland, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
Well, now back to another of our top stories, also dealing with health and the increasing number of suicides in this province. The numbers are up 25% for the province, but in Labrador, they've doubled. Leela Evans is the MHA for Torngat Mountains, and at the House of Assembly today, I asked her about her take on today's numbers.
Suicide in Northern Labrador is tied to economic marginalization, right? And when you have vulnerable people that suffer an intergenerational trauma, growing up in households that's impacted, going into the schools with everybody who's impacted, when you have a pandemic and you have all these extra problems put on top of communities, a lot of times it's too much. It's not just our youth that's committing suicide. Also, with intergenerational trauma comes alcoholism. So when you have people who are, suffering addictions, you put these extra factors on them and on their community, then you'll have more people dying. More of us are dying, killing ourselves, because we're already impacted, we're already vulnerable. And then we have the extra issues of the pandemic. Everything is related, right? And the problem is the government isolates it, puts it into little discrete categories. Oh, that's not my department. But you want to know something? If you're the Minister of Health and people on North Coast are committing suicide, it's a matter of concern for you. It should be a matter of concern for you, right? It just pisses me off. It really do, and it hurts me. Right? Because, to me, one thing I gotta say, to me, it's not numbers, it's people. When you talk about, there's double the percentage of people are now committed suicide in 2021. Well, I can go through and list off the names of the people that committed suicide in my communities because I know them. I know the families who are impacted. They're real people, and they're leaving behind families. So really, this government got to step up, right? Mental health issues, right? I can tell you what's causing mental health issues in my district is the intergenerational trauma of residential schools that basically ruined little children who grew up to be broken parents, broken adults, and the generations continued on because of social economic marginalization, and no real help came from them. No real help was provided. But yet, everybody will put on an orange shirt. Everybody will hang up a picture of a red dress for missing and murdered Indigenous women and young girls, or put on an orange shirt when they remember all those little tiny graves that were uncovered. But that happened to the people, that happened, and that's what caused the intergenerational trauma. And I tell you right now, I'm really sorry to be lecturing, but at the end of the day, I got no faith in that government. That government, we should actually go down to the Colonial Building, because that government in there has colonial policies of today, not of the past, of today. And we're seeing it day after day. And I'm really, really sorry to offend people, but that's the truth. That's my reality. And I really don't even know why I bother to come here anymore, right? In actual fact, I really don't even know why we're part of this House of Assembly. I don't even know why we're part of this province, because at the end of the day, our people are killing ourselves, And also, people are dying from curable health conditions. And a lot of those people are my friends and my family. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Well, the health minister says he hopes the government's new mental health plan brings those suicide rates down. He said next year, almost $5 million in new money will address mental health issues, and he says he hopes that helps. If you or someone you know is struggling, you can reach out for help. You can call the Suicide Prevention Hotline toll-free 1-833-456-4566.
Well, lots of representatives from the provincial government and the Association for New Canadians are here at the St. John's International Airport awaiting the third flight to arrive from Warsaw, full with people from the Ukraine. We're going to chat to the ANC about the challenges ahead. That's coming up after the break.
Ukraine has been subjected to a second day of barrages by Russian forces. Moscow has stepped up its attack on civilian and infrastructure targets. Ukraine reported at least 19 people have been killed and hundreds have been hurt. The eastern city of Dnipro has seen renewed strikes. Air raid warnings sounded there for several hours today as crews work to clean up from yesterday's attacks. Ukraine's emergency services released these images of the aftermath in the nearby city. It has been the target of ongoing bombings and missile strikes and has suffered significant damage. The capital, Kiev, has also been hit with renewed attacks after several months of relative calm. Canada is offering up more indirect support to the Ukrainian war effort. In Poland today, Defense Minister Anita Anand announced that the Canadian military will be providing personnel to help train Ukrainian fighters.
Canada will deploy approximately 40 combat engineers to Poland to help Polish forces train Ukrainian sappers on engineer reconnaissance, explosives, mining, and demining.
Canada has provided training to more than 33,000 Ukrainian troops. Anand says today's announcement will complement other training that Canada is providing to Ukrainian forces in the UK. The minister also condemned Russia's escalation of the war, calling the attacks war crimes. Anand was in Poland to sign a memorandum of understanding on defense cooperation. Well, as you heard a little earlier in the show, this province is offering more support tonight for people fleeing from Ukraine. A plane will soon be landing in St. John's International Airport, carrying 177 people from the war-torn country. That's where our Jeremy Eaton is standing by tonight. Jeremy, a little less than an hour to go. What can you tell us about how people are preparing for their arrival?
Well, Peter, things are starting to ramp up here at the airport. If you can see, you can't really see behind me, but that's where the Canadian Border Services is, and a number of volunteers from the ANC and representatives from the provincial government have gone back there to try to get ready and welcome these new Canadians coming from Poland, Warsaw, Poland. But earlier today, now in order to get ready for the arrival, because this is the third plane that's been sponsored by the provincial government to land here in St. John's filled with Ukrainians escaping the war-torn country. But the ANC has been doing a lot of work already with them. And so earlier, not too long ago, about 15 or 20 minutes ago, I spoke with their executive director, Megan Morris, and here's a bit of an excerpt of our conversation.
Well, that's when all the real work begins, for us anyway. So our team are all here at the airport and at hotels, waiting to greet people, to transport them to temporary accommodation. We begin working immediately to triage their immediate needs and to begin looking for housing and get the kids enrolled in school as quickly as we can. And we also have an employment team who are at the hotel who will start working with folks right away. And it's just a whole array of work that takes place. We have a number of different divisions, so even their language assessment will be done. Even though they have an assessment that they're bringing, we'll do a more up-to-date assessment here in Canada. But lots of work over the coming days and weeks.
This has been the third time that you've gone through this process. Is it any easier now than, say, the first time when the first flight arrived in May?
I think, and we've done some federal charters as well, so I think we're more comfortable with the process, but it's a lot of work, but it's really so worth it. It's so wonderful to see people come to Newfoundland and Labrador and to get settled in their new home. So, it's hard work, but it's wonderful and rewarding work.
Now, the media has been here for the provincial government flights, and we've seen Ukrainians make their way in, but you deal with them firsthand.
Absolutely.
How are the first couple of hundred who have arrived here in the province doing now?
Okay, well, I think folks are doing well. It's a complex time to resettle. So, I'm sure there are people that are doing really well and really happy. There are others who may be struggling a little bit. It's the normal process of resettlement. But by and large, what I'm hearing from our team is that folks are really grateful for the support and help. They're very grateful to our province for providing such tremendous supports. And a lot of people are choosing to come here of their own accord outside the charters, and that's how we're up to 800 or 900. So I think something's going right here for sure.
Now, it'd be hard, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. There's been a lot of, the last 24, 36 hours have not been very good for Ukraine, given the recent Russian attack.
Right.
Does that make this flight more important then? Do you think people will be more grateful when they arrive, given what they're seeing back home?
I find it difficult to even surmise what individuals must be feeling at the moment. I can only imagine how awful the last few days have been, and we're just so happy that they're here and they're safe and maybe reuniting with family, and we'll be very sensitive to all of that and support them as best we can.
Now, as anybody who lives in Newfoundland and Labrador knows, we like to help out any way we can. And I know that when people watch this or when people hear about this slight landing, they're going to want to know what they can do to help. And so as the executive director of the ANC, what advice would you give to people who want to help out?
Well, through this whole effort and through other humanitarian efforts, people have been incredibly generous. So, right now we're a little bit full on donations. So if folks want to let us know of a house or apartment, a homestay situation that they can provide, that's really wonderful. They want to give a small gift card or something like that, that is amazing and will help so much.
I know that you're busy, so I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for your time, Megan.
Thanks so much, Jeremy.
Now, that was Megan Morris, the executive director of the ANC, chatting to us not too long ago. Just checking out flightradar24.com, and it says that excuse me, that the flight is expected to arrive in about 42 minutes, and according to the board there, that makes it 7:23 local time, and that's when they're expected to welcome in approximately 170 Ukrainians. Now, they do have to clear customs before they can make their way here through the doors behind us, but we'll be here for the rest of the evening, so you can check out our website, cbc.ca/nl for the latest, and we'll have some footage for you tomorrow night on the news. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Jeremy Eaton in St. John's.
Coming up tomorrow on CBC Radio's Newfoundland Morning, hear a Mi'kmaq language expert who's launching a new 14-week course, the first of its kind in the province. And at lunchtime tomorrow on Crosstalk, the focus is on accessing mental health services in the province. Call with your own experiences. The Wellington Zoo in New Zealand has experienced a population explosion amongst its ring-tailed lemurs, with the arrival of 4 sets of twins. Take a look.
This is Zeus, the father, has done his job. And to be honest, he has a tough job because he only has a 24 to 36 hour window while they're in that season, and they only breed once a year. So he got around very well.
You could say that. The baby boom has doubled the population of the zoo's population of endangered lemurs. The lemur pups were born to 4 different females, all of them first-time mothers. The first set of twins arrived in August, and the most recent set were delivered last week. Lemurs are native to Madagascar, and their population has been declining in the wild. They're listed as endangered by the International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. Oh, think of those poor mums. First-time moms, and they're stuck with 2 kids. Well, people often talk about a bird's eye view, a view up high above the ground. A New Brunswick group called Hawkwatch knows all what it's like to look from that angle. Members position themselves on small wooden platforms on Greenlaw Mountain to observe and take photographs. But it's not just about capturing stunning images, they're also hoping to contribute important information about the migration numbers of hawks and other raptors. Take a look.
Well, I have a passion for nature. Since I was a boy, I've spent most of my time outdoors, exploring various places. And I find migration, the spectacle of migration, really amazing to watch. So birds of prey, like many birds, will respond to atmospheric conditions, cold fronts. And sometimes you'll have adverse conditions for extended periods of time. It could go for days or even weeks where it's rainy and foggy or a lot of headwinds, so the birds don't move because it's not very efficient for them to travel. And then when things change, when the winds become favorable, all of a sudden you can have a massive movement.
The hawks that are migrating out of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, perhaps the Gaspé, some of Nova Scotia, tend to come along the coast. They don't want to fly over water, and they look for areas where there are winds and rising air currents to give them the lift to continue the migration. It's sort of at the mouth of the Bay of Fundy before you hit the main U.S. landmass. So the birds are migrating down the coast, and they don't want to go over the water. And this particular site is right on that line. So they're jumping or hopping, if you will, through areas of lift down the coast until they get into the mainland of the U.S. and continue the migration.
And the information you gather, what happens to it?
It goes into a really quite a massive database now that's managed by the Hawk Migration Association of North America. In New Brunswick here, the indications from the data suggest that most of our species are holding their own. Some are increasing, such as peregrine falcons and bald eagles and turkey vultures seem to be doing very well. Some of the smaller species less so.
Some species are recovering from years of persecution and unfortunately poisoning from pesticides such as DDT. The bald eagle is making a comeback, and Austria making a comeback. Unfortunately, songbirds are in decline and insects are in decline, and those are the prey base for some of these smaller birds of prey that are also in decline.
Why do you enjoy this?
Well, if you love and respect something, you want to look after it. And it's one small way that I, and certainly members of the St. John Naturalist Club, can help out in support of conservation. Every little bit adds up. And to be able to be here to assist in the counting of the hawks, it provides that reward that you're doing something. Small as it might be, it's important, and the data is useful.
Heather, today wasn't a bad day across most of the island, but I'm wondering the long range. Should we be taking some advice from those hawks and heading south for nicer weather? What's it going to look like?
Well, I think we're going to have a nice couple of days coming up, so maybe some of our snowbirds are going to head south anyways, but I think I'll stick around for a nice fall day. Let's take a look. So going into Wednesday now, you can see a lot of that precipitation clearing off with a mix of sun and cloud for most parts of the island and some cloud cover for Labrador. Let's take a look at how Thursday is going to shape up. We're going to have temperatures in the mid-teens and a mix of sun and clouds. Like we said, not too bad. 16 in St. John's, 14, 15 into Central, 13 down in Port aux Basques. Up into the single digits in St. Anthony and into the Straits and Labrador, of course. But, you know, look at this. Not a bad day at all in the long-range forecast for Labrador City. Wabush in the double digits for you there. Moving on to Thursday overnight now, we have some similar, you know, mix of cloud, possible showers down here for the south coast as we head into Friday. Looking like another pretty decent day. Things should be warmer into Central at 17, 18 in Corner Brook on Friday. That looks like an absolutely lovely day for you with a mix of sun and cloud. You know, it looks like a mix of sun and cloud for most parts of the island except for Labrador City. You could have some showers here, 14. Sun and cloud on the coast, 6 in Nain, 16 in Cartwright and Happy Valley Goose Bay as well. So things looking pretty decent as we head towards the weekend on this short week after our Thanksgiving weekend. Many people had a holiday. For St. John's now in our 5-day forecast, it looks like we don't have much precipitation at all in the forecast, which we're really lucky for. So it looks like we could have a little bit more cloud come Sunday. On into central Newfoundland now, it looks like you might have a chance of showers, a 40% chance of showers tomorrow. Things mix of sun and cloud for the rest of the week. A few more clouds on Sundays. Temperatures in the mid-teens, getting up to 17 on Saturday. Your overnight lows, though, down into the single digits. For western Newfoundland, things looking pretty similar Wednesday, though. Tomorrow looking like a better day than in central. A mix of sun and cloud, 10 degrees there. Again, mid-teens for the rest of the week. Possible showers, though, on Saturday as you head into your weekend. On into Labrador now. For the eastern part of Labrador, you've got some sun to start out on Wednesday. Few clouds on Thursday, mix of sun and cloud on Friday. Saturday looking decent with some rain possible on Sunday. A bit of a mixed bag in western Labrador. Snow rain mix tomorrow, clearing off for Thursday and Friday with a bit of precipitation to round out your weekend. Now we've got your weather photo. Take a look at that sunset, and this one is called Sunset and Scraggly Spruce. It comes from Mary McKim. She says those spruce trees have been there for 20 years. And isn't that just lovely? If you've got a photo to send to us, you can do so at nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Well, it's nice to see some sunsets and some nice sun in the forecast to welcome the Ukrainians who are arriving. You know,
Absolutely.
At least once they're going to find out what our winters are like soon enough, but at least give them a couple of nice days of sunshine to welcome them to the province.
A
and
warm
check the place.
welcome.
Exactly. There you go, quite literally. And that's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.